Minister, Ireland has recently suffered blows with COVID-19 and the ransomware attack on the HSE. The exposure of vulnerabilities in healthcare provision and cyber defence points to an absence of critical sovereign capability mitigating against such threats. The word sovereignty entered popular public discourse in Ireland during the financial crash, but its true meaning involves international recognition of geographical territory, its borders and people. Ultimately, sovereignty is about having the resources to protect one's citizens. Search and rescue is a vital national service entailing the rescue or recovery of people on land or at sea. The Air Corps have successfully delivered search and rescue since 1964 and continue to do so as a Defence Force tasking. The service is essential and cannot be compromised under any circumstances. Ireland must always retain a sovereign SAR capability provided by the Defence Forces Air Corps. The Air Corps is a state asset with aircraft, pilots, maintenance technicians, air traffic control and physical structure at Casement Aerodrome in Baldonnel. Taxpayers pay to maintain the Air Corps assets and their use must be maximised. The Defence Forces are the first to be called up in any state emergency and have played a significant role in tackling both of the recent crises. Since 2004, civil SAR has been provided by a private contractor. The SAR service is staffed by civilian staff, highly professional and courageous pilots and crews, and I acknowledge their dedication today. However, the contract is now up for renewal, and while SAR is an essential service, guaranteed delivery should not preclude financial prudence or value for money analysis. Recent mischievous commentary in the media by vested interests committed to continuing a fully privatised SAR service erroneously suggests that the Air Corps lacked the capacity to deliver on any part of the upcoming contract. Let me assure you, Minister, that the current Air Corps pilot strength is at an all-time high through organic pilot entry, training in Ireland and abroad, coupled with re-entry into the service of former Air Corps pilots. The Air Corps is in rude good health today. Contrary to what is reported in the media by vested interests, there is no regulatory impediment to the Air Corps being awarded part of the new SAR contract. Air Corps flying regulations are nested in constitutional legal order of the aviation world and fully comply with Ireland's international obligations under the Chicago Convention of 1944. Military air regulations have due regard to civil aviation, and across Europe there is a total system approach to aviation safety enabled by civil-military cooperation. The military air regulations and Air Corps for SAR operations fulfil the mission in line with the requirements of the International Civil Aviation Organisation and the International Maritime Organisation. Every EU state is responsible for establishing its regulatory regime and for ensuring effective coordination between the maritime and aviation sectors, having due regard to the objectives of the EU's Aviation Safety Agency. The outsourcing of SAR for the past 2 decades has been a high-risk activity. We must now act wisely to mitigate against the risks by ensuring that sovereign state assets, the Air Corps, be tasked with providing portion of the 10-year SAR contract. Outsourcing all SAR delivery to an international civilian company flies in the face of having state resilience and sovereign capability in times of crisis, as we have seen with COVID and the HSE ransomware attack. The current privatised SAR contract was listed as costing $523 million when placed in 2012. To date, it has cost $640 million, and by 2023, it will cost in excess of $700 million. An aviation expert from an Irish third-level institution has calculated the cost of SAR being delivered by the Air Corps from 2023 for 10 years at $152 million, that's East Coast SAR. This would include the East Coast helicopter SAR plus the fixed-wing top cover serviced by the new CASA aircraft, which are due to be delivered soon. The saving to the Exchequer would be an estimated $389 million over the cost of the same service provided by a civilian contractor. When we look back at the current contract, we can see that it was both flawed and inadequate. It betrays a lack of knowledge by the Department of an operational SAR contract, particularly the technical operation aviation elements of it. This should never have been the case, as in 2009 the Department and the Coast Guard commissioned a report by the Future Helicopter Study Group, tender specification criteria for search and rescue helicopters. Of note in that report, recommendation for night vision goggle flying and helicopter underslung operational capability for firefighting and resupply in any future contract. Sadly, the night vision part did not find its way into the 2012 contract, instead raising its head astonishingly in 2023, 1 year after the contract was signed. The underslung capability was contracted for but never delivered. Contrast this with the night vision service offered by the Air Corps since 2008 to Garda Síochána, the National Air Ambulance Service, and for military operations and military SAR since then. Incredibly, from 2013, 1 year after the contract with CHC was signed, they were contracted by the Coast Guard to deliver night vision flying capability with its 5 S-92 helicopters. But the cockpits of these helicopters were not fitted for night vision flying, and the result is the state paying an additional $3.5 million plus VAT to retrofit the helicopters, which were not the property of the state, for night vision flying, further increasing the value of a CHC asset at the taxpayer's expense. Furthermore, the state then went on to purchase night vision goggles at a cost of $570,000 for CHC in 2015, with an additional spend for pilot and crew training. To date, I understand that training for night vision is not complete, and it is possible that no CHC helicopter contracted by the state to the Irish Coast Guard has flown a single night vision mission, despite adding $7.5 million to the additional cost to the contract. In an even more serious turn, the state agreed a financial model with CHC to allow the depreciation cost structure of 5 helicopters provided over the life of the contract as if they were new. 4 of those helicopters were not. During the recent wildfires in Killarney National Park, CHC, who were contracted in 2012 to provide helicopter sling load operation capability, or HELOS, to carry large water carrying buckets on their 5 helicopters, could not be used as they never fitted the HELOS. Instead, the Air Corps deployed 3 HELOS-capable helicopters, and the state contracted a 4th from Scotland. Not only did this impact on the spread of the fire, but where was the departmental and the Irish Coast Guard oversight of the compliance of the 2012 contract? In July 2020, Minister, you issued the first annual report of the National Search and Rescue Plan submitted to the National SAR Committee, chaired by Vice Admiral Sir Michael Massey, a UK SAR veteran. One of the key recommendations was the urgent requirement for a SAR assurance mechanism, which involved professional external advisors ensuring compliance with best practice. In 2017, the Department and the Coast Guard sought a company to carry out this role. I can inform the House today that the company contracted to carry out this potentially life-saving role of aviation assurance compliance and provide advice to your department on the next SAR tender is a company which was only incorporated in 2014. Its first year its accounts were only submitted in 2015, accounts that are not subject to audit, I should say, and crucially, its annual accounts on the 31st of January 2017, the year in which it won the tendered contract to provide aviation assurance compliance, the company's balance sheet showed a potential loss of 32,000 sterling, net assets of just 13,000 sterling, and had cash in bank of just 9,000 sterling, and had just 1 employee, the owner. The company accounts show no significant debtor or creditor balances that would confirm ongoing trade. There is no evidence of a verifiable track record of multiple high-value contracts that were listed to me in a recent letter by Minister Eamon Ryan. I must ask you, Minister, to explain the discrepancy between the company's accounts and the list of projects that the company was said to be involved in. The taxpayers should know what distinguished this company from other companies who tendered for the contract. And given the company had only 1 employee, what consideration was given to the possibility that the owner-director may sell the company? Was there a change of control clause built into the contract? And what other contracts was this company involved in, as evidenced in their balance sheet? Did the state effectively purchase the service of a one-man show? On the 14th of May this year, Minister Ryan replied to a letter I had sent to him, the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, raising concerns I had on the current and future SAR contracts. In particular, the company contracted in 2007 to provide aviation assurance compliance. I quote from his letter. The company customer base is impressive and varied and includes other EU Coast Guard, oil and gas companies, several wind energy companies, an air ambulance charity, various public bodies, and national, EU and UN agencies. This is for a company that was just 3 years old. The letter further states that the company uses technical and pilot specialists with decades of aviation experience, including considerable helicopter and SAR experience. I have to say, Minister, the company accounts, all of which are publicly available, show zero evidence of such diverse trading activity or hiring of expert consultants to service these suggested contracts. Minister, we already have ample evidence to show that the 2012 contract was not subjected to the scrutiny and oversight that such a critical contract requires. I'm very concerned now that the company contracted by the Department and the Irish Coast Guard in 2017 to advise on the next SAR contract may not have the necessary skills to do so. I am seriously worried about a repeat of the 2012 contract mistakes. To conclude, Minister, I believe that the Air Corps must be part of the new contract. The Air Corps as a state entity cannot formally bid on any part of this contract. They can only be tasked to do so by the government. The Air Corps has already submitted a comprehensive proposal to your department, which should be granted a defined element of the why it should be granted a defined section of the helicopter contract and all of the fixed wing. I, supported by IALPA, now call on you, Minister, to make this submission publicly available. You should also publish your department and the assurance experts' opinions along with the Air Corps rebuttal of that critique. This is the only way that a fair and transparent process can be seen to have taken place in awarding this enormous state contract. To sum up, Minister, it would be a very smart move for Ireland to retain its sovereign capability for SAR. Ireland and the UK are the only two states in Europe who have totally outsourced SAR services to private companies. By tasking the Air Corps to operate East Coast SAR from the Baldonnel base, your department will reduce the new 2013 contract, opening the tender to many companies. A reduced private sector involvement will drive down prices and allow numerous aviation players to compete because of a smaller scale, which will result in a more competitive bid. In addition, the state would be sending a powerful message of support and confidence to its military. It would also reinforce the message to international contractors that they do not enjoy a monopoly service delivering and can effectively charge what they want. A SAR contractor, assuming that the state has no alternative nor sovereign competitor, is dangerous and costly. It is the aviation equivalent of an international pension fund swooping in to buy an entire housing estate, the result being the state will never own the houses, or in this case the helicopters, but the citizens will be paying exorbitant rent or lease costs. Recently, the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council said that official budgetary forecasts are poorly funded, major policy commitments are not built in, and the promise of medium-term strategy has not been delivered by the government. The Chair of the Council has also stated that the absence of well-founded medium-term plans and fiscal targets leaves the public finances unanchored. In light of this, I call on you, Minister, and your colleagues in government to act on the very serious issue I have outlined above in the interest of fiscal responsibility, public safety and national sovereignty. Minister, I thank you for your time and I look forward to your reply.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and I want to thank all the senators for their contributions this evening. This debate presents an opportunity to underline the importance of the Irish Coast Guard's aviation service to Ireland as a maritime nation, and I welcome the opportunity to set out the current state of play on the ongoing procurement process, which is being managed by my department. This debate relates to a motion tabled by Senators Craughwell and Boyan on the Coast Guard contract. Government is tabling, as you know, its own counter-motion, which we contend clarifies some of the issues raised in the Senator's motion and sets out the process being followed to ensure that we procure a fit-for-purpose Coast Guard aviation service once the current contract ends. The provision of an effective maritime search and rescue service is critical to Ireland as an island nation with a strong maritime sector. Throughout COVID, we have seen just how dependent we are on the maritime and shipping sector to the supply chain of essential goods and medicines, and it's to their credit that the sector has shown such resilience in the face of the dual challenge of COVID and Brexit. Our fishing sector is also a vital lifeblood of our coastal communities, allied with a buoyant and growing maritime leisure sector. All three sectors depend on the reliability and the professionalism of the Irish Coast Guard and all its component parts, including the Coast Guard helicopter service. To offer them a service which can deploy at a moment's notice to rescue them when needed and bring them to a place of safety. For that reason, decisions on a significant component of that service require careful consideration. We need to ensure we procure a service that is fit for purpose, meets our domestic and international obligations, and delivers value for the significant level of investment involved. The Coast Guard has a distinguished record in delivering search and rescue services for many decades, including the management of aviation services delivered by the Air Corps and civil operators. They are leading on this process within my department. The current contract with CHC Ireland DAC is in place since July 2012 for 10 years, with an option to extend for a further period of up to 3 years to 2025. The contract has been extended initially for 1 year to July 2023 to facilitate a seamless transition from one service to another. Given the significant lead-in time for a procurement of this scale and the importance, and to ensure that we are in compliance with the Public Spending Code, the process for scoping the new service commenced in November 2019. A steering group chaired by the Director of the Irish Coast Guard was established. The group comprises of all key state stakeholders, including the Department of Defence and the Air Corps at that time. It also has aviation, legal, procurement and economic appraisal advice available to it. The Department also conducted an extensive consultation process with all key state and other SAR stakeholders to consider the scope and demand for the service over the lifetime of a new contract. A strategic assessment and preliminary appraisal was undertaken, which took account of all the various inputs. This was agreed by the steering group and brought to Government in July 2020. This report set out the context of the Coast Guard's aviation programme, considers the wider whole of government needs, including a survey of existing policies and strategies relevant to the programme. It took on board key learnings from the existing service and contractual arrangements. It identified the spending objectives of the programme, including existing arrangements and relevant business needs. It also included an appraisal of various service delivery options, including the state assuming full responsibility for the service, either through the Air Corps or a dedicated IRCG aviation branch. Both were ruled out for a variety of reasons, including the level of risk which would be assumed by the state. We are now in the next phase of the Public Spending Code, which is the preparation of a detailed business case for government. This being carried out by KPMG with input from the department's project team with external aviation expertise. It was acknowledged that the Air Corps was not in a position to take full responsibility for this service on the basis of that initial assessment, which was agreed by the Department of Defence. However, at the request of the Department of Defence in November, my department agreed to explore the viability of the Air Corps providing some element of the SAR aviation service as part of this business case process. An Air Corps submission received in March this year is being reviewed as part of the preparation of that detailed business case. We expect that this process will be completed in the coming months and a memorandum brought to Government which will recommend a preferred option and a procurement strategy to achieve that based on that business case. The Senator's motion calls into question the expertise available to the Coast Guard. To be clear, the Coast Guard has decades of experience in managing aviation services, whether through the Air Corps or a civil operator since 2004. To assist in certain aspects of this work, it retains the services of an aviation consultant. The current consultant was procured by open competitive tender in 2017, based on the requirements set out at that time. They have provided an excellent level of service across a wide range of technical issues, including the current procurement process. Their technical expertise and experience embraces all relevant matters, including Coast Guard and SAR-related issues internationally. KPMG have also been contracted to put the detailed business case together, and apart from their own economic and technical expertise, they have aviation expertise available to them to support this work. In terms of compliance issues, a process auditor has been appointed from the outset to ensure compliance with procurement and public spending code procedures. The process auditor is answerable to and reports to the Secretary-General of my department in relation to any concerns he may have with the process, and is independent of any other reporting arrangements related to the procurement. As the Government's counter-motion makes clear, there is no doubt in relation to the capability and expertise of the Air Corps in aviation matters. It is precisely for that reason that they were involved as a strategic stakeholder in the development of this project, up and until the point they were requested by the Department of Defence to prepare a proposal to provide an element of the SAR service. In order to avoid any suggestion of a conflict of interest, their participation on the steering group ceased. This is about protecting the integrity of the overall process. I am satisfied that the process underway in relation to the development of the new service is robust, rigorous and fit for purpose. The Senator's motion refers to issues in relation to the existing contract with CHCI and the manner in which the tender process was conducted. Again, the Government's counter-motion seeks to correct some of the claims made and set the record straight. The existing contract with CHCI was procured by way of an open, competitive tender, following extensive consultation with all stakeholders. That process was subject to independent external audit, and no issues of concern were identified. As regards the value for money aspects of the existing contract, these were addressed as part of the original evaluation by relevant experts, including the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform and the NTMA. The CHCI service is kept under constant review in terms of contractual performance. It was subject to a mid-term assessment in 2018 to identify inter alia any lessons for a new service. The contract continues to deliver against the key performance measures set for it. This is not a fixed cost contract. There are agreed monthly standing charges and there are variable elements on top of that. There are costs associated with modifications which are agreed with the IRCG. There can be other additional costs, all of which are provided for in the contract terms. The contract costs on average around €57 million per year, which is broadly in line with expectations at the outset. For clarity, the requirements set out for the current tender were also the subject of extensive consultation. The assumptions and recommendations as regards these requirements, whether for surge capacity or increased range, were all agreed and validated by the Helicopter Study Group, which comprised all key state stakeholders, including the Department of Defence and the Air Corps. It would be imprudent for any emergency service to base its requirements on historical data alone. Emergency services, by their nature, must provide for scenarios that may happen, even where the likelihood is low. A core requirement of the current service is a mass rescue scenario, which thankfully has not occurred, but would require significant surge capacity, which no other aviation service in the state could provide. As for Air Corps participation at that time, the Department of Defence noted at the time that the Air Corps no longer had the operational or management experience required to run the SAR service and that substantial investment in equipment and training over many years would be required before an Air Corps maritime SAR capacity could be made operational again. The level of capacity available to the state through this contract is significant and has been utilised to supplement a wide range of aviation needs beyond purely maritime search and rescue, including assisting the HSE, the National Ambulance Service, the island communities and Garda Síochána for land SAR incidents, and Department of Housing, Fire Services in the context of major emergency needs. The existing service was procured on the basis of a sound rationale and validated assumptions in terms of potential demand. The tender process was considered robust and compliant, and the terms of the resulting contract were competitive and based on a thorough evaluation of the respective bids. The contract represented the best value available from the market at the time. The current procurement process is adhering closely to all the required steps of the Public Spending Code for current expenditure appropriate to a service such as this. It has involved all key state and non-statutory stakeholders. The project team leading this has all the expertise it needs for this stage of the process, including aviation expertise with varied and relevant helicopter, SAR and regulatory expertise, as well as KPMG with a strong record in similar business case development. My department has been keen to ensure that all interested parties in the eventual tender process are dealt with fairly and transparently. In the interests of transparency, the department held a public webinar in September, which provided analysis to date to all interested parties. Furthermore, a dedicated web page was created on which all relevant information and updates on the process are provided to everyone all at the same time. This is in addition to broadcasts submitted via e-tenders to the market. This is the place to find reliable information on this process. In conclusion, I would like to endorse the approach taken by my department to this process, which will provide the required input for government to make the right decision on this important matter. And on this basis, I ask that you support the government's counter-motion.
Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach. Let me start off by saying the first and primary concern in any search and rescue situation is the individual that's on top of a mountain or in the sea that needs rescuing. They don't care who rescues them. They couldn't care less. That's the first point I'll make. There's been some talk here this afternoon about surge capacity. It's a nonsense argument, because when the Costa Concordia went down in Italy, helicopters came from all over to rescue that. So there is no historical evidence to back up the requirement for surge capacity. If it was required, every asset in the country and in the UK would be brought in to bear on it. With respect to flying into the UK, we do it all the time, Senator Ward. Every day of the week we fly people over and back on military aircraft to the UK. We're called on in Northern Ireland to help them fight fires. So there is no difficulty about cross-border issues. I did not bring up Rescue 116 because I thought it was inappropriate. But what I am going to do now, Rescue 116 has been mentioned today, and that horrific accident, which happened over 4 years ago, has not yet been reported upon. And I want to join with IALPA and the European Cockpit Association and call on you today, Minister, to issue the report. It is vitally important that after an air accident, that reports are issued speedily, in order that we can learn the lessons. Minister, you spoke about KPMG being advising on the business case. Can you confirm if it's Fraser Nash that are the experts that are employed by KPMG? That's something that is really important. Yesterday, Secretary General of the department, your department, Minister, told the Public Accounts Committee that after 10 years the taxpayer had nothing to show for 60 million a year or 1.1 million a week. Nothing to show for it, no asset whatsoever. They were unable to say what the 34.5 million of capital investment or capital expenditure, what did we get for that 34.5 million? Where is it? What does it belong to? There's no satisfactory answer to the Public Accounts Committee yesterday as to whether the department forensically check the historical and current company accounts and balance sheet of would-be contractors to the Irish Coast Guard. I already mentioned today, Senator Butterman asked me to put up or shut up where the numbers were concerned. Any numbers I've used have been freely available in the public domain. Any statistics I quoted are publicly available, so there is no need to hide them. Senator Buttermore also mentioned the fact that this matter had come before the Transport Committee and that the Transport Committee had declined to pursue it. The legal advice to the Transport Committee is that it does fall within the remit of an Oireachtas committee to oversee what's going on in the department with respect to the spending. I will ask you now, Minister, to write to the Oireachtas Committee and ask them to do just that. The public have a right to know that the process that's been followed is 100% transparent, as everybody has spoken about here today. Transparency is what it's all about. I understand, I may be wrong, but I heard anecdotally that during a recent meeting, Defence Force officers were refused entry into the meeting for fear of corrupting the system. The Defence Forces, contrary to what's we're being led to believe here, would not be tendering for any part of the search and rescue because they would be tasked by government. The Defence Forces are not an organisation that tender for anything. So if government wants them, they simply task them to do the job. And that's not in breach of any EU regulations or anything else. There's a lot of flattery in this House for the Defence Forces, and I'm not saying that today necessarily, but there is a lot of flattery. We have people in the Defence Forces available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, ready, willing and able. And the one thing they can't do, which any private contractor can do, is they cannot go on strike. Nor, at any time, would the Air Corps be found wanting. One of the things about resilience I'm talking about here is we have 5 S-92, Sikorsky S-92 helicopters. What's wrong with having a couple of Augusta Westling AW139s there? Resilience. If the Sikorsky is put down because of some technical issue, and that does happen in aviation, then what you do is you have a second line there. At the end of the day, Minister, I believe the Irish Air Corps should be involved in search and rescue to protect this state in all circumstances, and I'll leave it at that. Cathaoirleach, thank you very much.